the better you are at talking to people, networking, making good friends, being just genuine in your actual demeanor and everything like that, that matters a lot because that's everything about how I was able to pull out. Because the more you network, the more you're genuine, the more you're kind, the more opportunities you get.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Last Life Ever podcast. My name is Jillian Sidoti. I am joined with my partner in time, not crime. We do no crimes over here. Jeffrey Holst. Jeffrey Holst?
Wait,
Yes.
we don't do crimes. I need to go then. I'm on the wrong show.
Listen, we don't do crimes. You never admit that on recording, Jeffrey, or on live
I
stream.
don't do crimes, Jillian. I'm not a known criminal, and I prefer to keep it quiet. But I think we should probably move on to the show because we have an amazing guest today. Jillian, do you know who we have on the show today?
Why don't you tell me who we have on the show today, Jeffrey?
You don't know.
I
It's a
did know it was
surprise
on the show. Oh, my God.
No, today we have our mutual friend Todd Folk on the show, and we're going to talk to him about his life experience because he's just so fascinating. He's a serial entrepreneur, but really in the middle of that, a couple of different times he lived as a homeless person. So he's going to talk to us about what it was like to be homeless and what he had to do and the mind that he had to have to get out of that situation and become the successful entrepreneur that he is today. So we're going to talk about all of that. We might even talk about travel because I don't know if you know this, Jillian, but Todd has been to 1 million countries, give or take a few, without ever going to Europe. I think he's literally in the 80s, 80 countries, and he's never been to Europe. So that's you almost have to try to do that. So I want to talk about that a little bit as well. And you might even be able to ask him some questions about some of the places we're going. Who knows, right?
Okay.
So that's all that and more coming up.
Hi, Todd. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much for having me on today.
All right, Todd, tell us, how'd you become homeless? Let's just get straight to the point.
So long story short, when I was a teenager, my mom and I had some disagreements. She wanted me to go be a pastor. I wanted to do business. That clashed. And I got sent packing on my way at the age of 17.
Wait. Back up for a second. A pastor. Were you guys crazy religious? And if so, where were you living? What was the church? How can we avoid this church?
Oh, so this is what's really fun. Very, very crazy. Very, very religious. I'd like to say I spent 4 to 6 days of the week in church. I was very, very into church myself. I was on the worship team, a whole bunch of stuff. But I want to stress this had nothing to do with the church. Absolutely nothing to do with the church. So I'm not gonna badmouth or talk bad. There's actually a lot of people in the church who supported me during a lot of tough times leading up to that point and everything. This is purely an in-house disagreement where my mom really, really, really wanted me to go be a pastor and follow the Lord and all these other things. And I found out from an earlier age that I was pretty good at business. I was great at selling stuff, and it was fun for me. So I wanted to go into business, and she wanted me to be in religion, and it just did not click. So again, at 17, I was sent on my way.
So
wow.
actually, you mentioned that finding out that you were good in business at an early age. So let's actually take it a step back before this happened, where you ended up on the street. Did you have businesses before that?
Yeah. So I started a few smaller things that did really well in retrospect. One of them I did was I burned some CDs for some friends, for a friend of mine, and ended up selling that to some radio stations. That did really well. And after that, I took some of that money that I made from there and invested it into doing lawn care. And I found out very quickly that I hated mowing lawns. So instead, I had other people mow some lawns for me, and I focused on selling.
Great.
Oh, wow.
So when you say you made some money selling CDs, like the last time I sold a CD, I think I made 99 cents at a used at a bookstore. Is that what we're talking about, or was it a real business?
No. So what really this was focused around us making like proprietary sounds and stuff like that, that some radio stations could use. A friend of mine was really big into learning about radio stations and stuff like that, wanted to be a radio DJ. So I burned some stuff for him, and the stations really liked it. So I basically put a premium price on it, several $100s, because I didn't want to make them. Is really what the whole gist was. I had no interest in it. So I was like, if I put this stupid number on it, no one will want it. And that didn't end up being the case. And I actually got some people very interested in it.
Wow, that is so
Oh,
cool.
And you made enough money to buy, I guess, lawn mowing equipment?
Yeah. We
with
made
that?
enough money to, I got some tractors, got some stuff, and I was able to build up enough capital to actually move to a different business.
Wait, where was all this
All right,
taking
so-
place? Like, what was this? What city or state was this in?
Williamsport, Pennsylvania. It was upstate, north central Pennsylvania. So, very small town area, home of the Little League World Series, and stuff like that.
So wait, but like, let's back up for a second because you're in Pennsylvania. It snows there. It gets cold there, and you're doing like a lawn care business. So obviously, the lawn care business can't work out during the winter time. And also, like, where were you staying? Understanding that you're homeless at points. What were you doing during the
Yeah.
winter
So
months?
this window,
Being homeless.
I was in school, so it worked out great because, like, when I'm in high school and stuff like that, I kind of can't run around doing all this other stuff. So it worked out for like during the spring and the summer to
Okay.
ramp it up and stuff like that. All of this came to an end,
Mhm.
and eventually, when I was 17, my family and I decided to part ways. Not by my decision, but in the long run, I like to say it was probably for the best.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mhm.
so once you parted ways with your family, right? Swords you use. What happened next?
Yeah. So, long story short, it was a big disagreement, and I ended up with about $40 in the clothing on my back. That's what I was left with on Sunday, and I just pretty much hopped around to mutual families, friends' houses for a little bit. And what really happens, and what I thought was going to be the opposite of what actually happened. I figured, family, friends, and everything like that would be fine helping out, but they kind of get sick of taking care of someone else's kid. So after just a few months and everything like that, pretty quickly, I found myself sleeping in parking garages, and wherever I could, just to finish school out, work. I remember working at Giant. I worked at TGI Fridays, any type of work I could, just so, this less time on the street is pretty much the gist of it while I finished up school.
So this happened while you were in
Correct.
high
This
school.
happened when I was in high school.
All right. And then, so you got done with high school though. So you kept that takes dedication actually. Like I'm going to step back a second. So I think if I were kicked out of my house, right, and I was in high school, I would probably stop going to high school. Why would you keep going to school? Like what was the
Yeah.
impetus there?
For me, it's all about avenues to the next step. And I statistically have, if you look at it, if you don't complete high school GED or something, you're SOL. Like it becomes much more difficult to actually succeed in any capacity. So for me, first step was, completing high school. And I was already in my last year. Hey, it might have been a different story if I was a sophomore in high school and kicked out. It might have been a completely different story then. But as in my senior year, the whole thing was do what I can to save money, work as much as possible, get into school, finish my high school diploma, and then figure it out from there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
do feel like a lot of high school students might not think about it the same way, right? Like I mean, it takes some perseverance at least to do that. So, all right. So then you get through high school. Then what do? You're still homeless,
Correct.
right? So you got done with high
Yeah,
school.
so I actually fought being homeless off and on for several years. It took a real long time to actually get out of it. Plenty of times, I remember I saved up with just enough money to do one semester at Valley Forge Christian College, and I did that purely under the notion that when I discussed with them, that they would help me get some form of financial aid so I can continue in that. And that didn't pan out. When I remember coming up in the end of the semester, going into the office and being like, "Hey, so like, can, can we can we get the aid? Can we do anything?" Because contrary to what most people think, filling out your FAFSAs requires your parents. And my parents were having none of that. Um, Absolutely none of that. So they weren't filling out. They weren't doing anything. I wasn't technically emancipated. Um, that's a whole nother process in
Oh,
and of itself. So I had no access to any federal
yeah.
financial aid at all. So it was just the money I had from
Yeah.
working 2 jobs while I was in high school. So I was able to pay for one semester, and then I found out that that was not going to happen. And that's right after that window is when I started to hit some serious rough patches because I had to make a decision. What do I do? I'm down now in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, closer to Philadelphia than Williamsport and everything like that. So I went to Philadelphia, and during that period, I was in scenarios where like I'm sleeping under the Walt Whitman Bridge. I'm sleeping wherever ever you can. I'm knocking on every business's doors, just trying to I'll wash dishes, I'll pick up garbage, I'll do anything I can, just to make ends meet. And I saw a lot of stuff, and none of it's pretty. Like, I'll be very honest with you, like, none of it's pretty. Um, but I knew at that point, if I was gonna try to pull myself out of that, I had to leave, uh, Philadelphia just because there's too much going wrong and not enough opportunity to try to pull yourself out. So I ended up, hitchhiking from Philadelphia all the way back up to Williamsport. Um,
They really
so
should. I have to agree with you. They really should make emancipation a lot easier for, certain kids because I had a very similar situation in college. My parents cut me off, and so I was left to my own devices. I had to have 2 jobs while I was in college to try to pay for college. And that's the thing. Like I know everybody's down on student loans, and I am myself a little down on student loans, but I wouldn't have been able to finish college despite having, graduating in the top 10% of my class in high school. I would not have been able to graduate college if it hadn't been for federal student loans, to be honest with you. So that I get that, and it's hard. And then you have to figure out like now I have to leave everything that I know in Pennsylvania and try something else. So what's the next thing you tried?
yeah, so I actually stayed with Pennsylvania. I moved back up to,
Oh, you
I
did?
hitchhiked actually all the way back up to Williamsport because I knew it. Like, a
Okay.
big thing for me is, you know, we at least in this scenario, understanding if I know at least some of X, I can test out Y. Keeping some type of
Yeah.
stability. I know the area, I know more of the people there. So it just gave me opportunities, which was really, really nice. I remember when I got back up there, again, off and on, I slept in the parking garage on 3rd Street. I slept, wherever you could, but that tended to be like one of my favorite spots because there's a little more sheltered from the elements. But I remember walking through the mall, and one of the first opportunities I got was from a friend of mine. He was working at an Arby's, and I'm like, "Yo, dude, I'll any work, any work." And he's like, "Okay, no problem. Here's a job application and everything like that." And I filled it out, and you lie about an address because you have to have an address. I don't have one. What are you gonna say? Like, I
Right.
live in a parking garage. Hire me. So you just fill and fabricate where you can, as terrible as that sounds, but you need it. And the job, I worked hard as humanly possible. Got promoted within a few months. And right around the time I got promoted to a management spot, I also got an opportunity at a Nextel kiosk at the mall too. And that's really what started to change the picture around for me. Because between the two of those jobs of part-time selling cell phones and part-time being a manager in Arby's, I was able to finally afford a car, which really, really changed the
Ah,
whole thing for me.
huge.
So
Yeah.
now if
Yeah.
right.
What were you were you walking? Were you
Yeah,
walking
yeah.
from place to
I
place?
walked almost every
Wow.
single day. And if I remember correctly, it was about a 5.5 to 6 mile walk each way.
Wow. Wow.
So I don't want to like, question your judgment, but like 5 miles each way, when you're homeless, why not just try to find a place
I tried.
closer to
That's the
work?
big thing is I tried. I tried. But like I guess the hiring market for menial labor wasn't that big
Well, why not find a place to sleep closer to the mall
because there's
then?
nothing. So like what's really fascinating is the mall in that area is really out. It's very like out along the highways and really, really far out. So like could I
Mm,
have maybe something maybe a mile or two closer would have been better, but like it does not provide the protection, does not provide a lot of stuff because this is a really small
right.
town. So like Williamsport was like the center of it, right? So like you get the parking garage. So if there's a big storm, I just move closer inside the parking garage. There's no other parking garages in the entire area. Like that's it. So like I'm sleeping outside at that point. And it just like which one weighs better for you?
Okay, so wait a
Yeah.
minute. So you finally get a car, but what about eating? What about like can you get I guess you can't even get public assistance because you can't get
No,
emancipated.
none of that
So you
exists.
can't get food stamps.
Yeah, but I had Arby's.
So how do you eat?
I worked at Arby's. I ate a lot. I ate a
So you
lot
just
of
ate.
fast food, but I thought it was fine because I also walked a
Mm,
lot. No, yeah, like the one of the benefits of like being at the mall is even while you're scraping stuff together, like you help out here, you do something there. I've had plenty of times where I chat with some guys who worked at another restaurant and I like move some stuff out to the garbage bin. You make friends. The big thing I learned in that
yeah.
whole window, network. Can't say that enough. The better you are at talking to people, networking, making good friends, being just genuine in your actual demeanor and everything like that, that matters a lot because that's everything about how I was able to pull out. Because the more you network, the more you're genuine, the more you're kind, the more opportunities you get. And that's really was the whole gist of it.
So I want to interrupt you for a second because I think the observation I would have about that is you are actually one of the better networkers I know, period, right? Like one of the reasons that we know you, Jillian and I, is because I ran into you in a public place and you and I ended up becoming
Yeah.
friends, right? Like there are lots of people I meet and I don't become friends with them. Now, there are other reasons why we became friends, but the point is you made a point of having a conversation with me. Like you didn't have to talk to me, but you did. And actually we recently interviewed another mutual friend of ours, Hayden Fike, who's like that he has a whole podcast on networking and I think people should check that out. But the same point is like I think this maybe there were some advantages to this struggle that you went
Yeah.
through. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I actually say this all the time. It's yeah, almost everyone I always talk to is like I always tell people I wouldn't wish what I went through on my worst enemy, because it was really rough, but I wouldn't give it up for the world. The amount of lessons I've learned and the amount I got to mature myself at the rate I got to mature, it was absolutely fascinating and wonderful. But like with everything, like if you want to move that quick, there's a lot of pain points. So I don't wish it on anyone. I really, really don't. I hope no one ever has to go through it. But I did learn a lot.
So I do want to step back for like a 10,000-foot view a second. So, early, late teenage, early 20s, you're homeless. Now you're in your late
Yeah,
30s now, I think, right? So, yep. So you're in your late 30s and you've traveled to how many
I believe I'm
countries?
up to 88, 87, something like that.
88 countries, right? So you're approaching the 100 country club, which is a rarefied
Yeah.
place, right? And you live in Viejo San Juan, Old San Juan in Puerto Rico.
This is not a
And
separate
you've been
country,
there for how long
just
now?
so people know.
Yeah, no, right. So how long have you been in Puerto Rico
Creeping
now?
up on 4 years now.
4 years in Puerto Rico. Before that, you lived in New
Correct.
York City. Yep. And so these are not free places to live. Like, so you must have done some stuff post being
Yeah.
homeless to get you to where you are
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. Absolutely. So
let's talk about that. Like what
Yeah,
happened
so
next?
eventually, and this is where I mentioned with the whole Nextel thing, I was able to grow that, become management, and actually work my way up, save money, and I put myself through college. Still got student aid eventually because I was now old enough to get it, 24 years old. And I put myself through college at the University of Kutztown in Pennsylvania. Went into the cigar business, did decent with that. And then eventually sold that off and moved to New York City when I had a little bit of extra capital. Worked at a few startups in there, primarily in sales, and then eventually started another business for restaurant marketing. We were doing really well, getting a lot of business, and we actually just closed on our equities round, and then COVID hit. Like literally right around the time the equity funding came in, COVID hit, and we were banking on it would not be that big of a deal, because you're swine flu, you hear all these other ones. So we kept on pushing forward and be like, all right, this should wrap up maybe in a couple months, maybe in 6 months. Boy, were we wrong. And it ended up
Mm.
happening where we had close to 200 partner restaurants in New York City alone, and almost every single one of them were forced to close. And our entire base of users that were especially paying users dried up because they couldn't even go to restaurants anymore. So I ate a pretty big loss on that, but moved down here to Puerto Rico to start up my next business, which was in the charter space with my partner, Krista. And that's actually doing very, very well right now.
And this is something actually Jillian and I talk about on the show and on some of the other stuff we make for Last Life Ever, because both Jillian and I did invest alongside of you and Krista in the charter sailboat company, and we love it. We think that's been an amazing experience for us.
One
So
of the
why don't you
best
tell us just-
investments I ever made, to be honest. Like, because Jeff called me, and this was the weirdest thing. This was the worst, like the best investment I ever made, and also the worst job I've ever done investing. Because Jeff
It's true.
calls
You
me
didn't
and
know
says,
due diligence.
due diligence. The worst. I went totally with trusting Jeff. Jeff calls me from a cigar bar and goes, I just met this guy. He has a boat. And do you want to invest in his boat? And I'm like, well, what do I get? And he goes, you get some time on the boat and you get 15% on your money. And I didn't care about the 15% on my money. I was like, get some time on a boat. Sounds good. But to Todd's credit, the man never missed a payment, never had an excuse. And when it was time to pay me back, I didn't even know it was time to pay me back. $20,000 just showed up in my account. It was crazy. So best investment I ever made. Worst due diligence I've ever done. I don't know what that says about my due diligence skills, but like.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting too, because I remember that conversation and I said, Jillian, just so you know, don't rely on my opinion on this, because I don't really know this guy. This is a couple of years ago. Well, like I didn't actually know him. I had only known you for a few weeks at that point, maybe a month or two. And I said, I don't really know him that well. And I'm doing it because I think it sounds fun. And I live in San Juan. And so I will go on the boat a lot. And I figure, like, the worst case scenario, I'm going to get a chance to go on the boat. And I'm going on the boat a lot. So it's been an amazing investment for me as well. And the company is Blue Doubloon Charters, and they sail. You sail out of you have two boats now, right? Like you're sailing out of Old San Juan, San Juan Bay Marina, and then also Fajardo.
Correct. We have our main boat, Blue Doubloon, which is in San Juan, day charter, sunset, full snorkel days if you want to go out. And then we have the other boat in Fajardo, which goes to the islands of Icacos and Palominos, whatever the client's looking for. But it's really designed to be a customized type of experience for what the client wants.
Yeah, and and the thing about it is, it's like a great experience, right? So I've probably been out, I don't know, what do you say, about a couple dozen times?
Yeah,
I've been out on the
25,
sail
30 times at least.
Yeah. So I mean, I've done it a bunch of times at this point. I might have overstayed my my free sale welcome a little bit. I try not to do it too often anymore. Because I know that the business is busy now. Like when we first started, that's part of the thing, right? Like you were building up the business. but things are going
Yeah.
well now, and you're looking to continue expanding from what I understand. So that's great. Do you anticipate being in the charter business for all eternity, or do you have some big plans on the horizon?
Yeah. So great thing you asked that. I do have one big plan that I'm working on, and it actually stemmed from the more knowledge I gained from the charter industry in general. I do have plans to build and expand the charter space, but in order to do that in a way that I think the most profitable, unique, and best for the client experience is to be able to get catamarans and yachts that allow for larger groups, because that's what we're finding is the number one thing that no one can service right now is larger group sizes. So in order to do that, I've had a lot of conversations with the government here, the local port authorities, and I'm starting to now. Well, Jeff, we're raising money.
I do know. This is total leading
We're
conversation
we're
here.
raising money to build a
The
shipyard.
short version is we're going to build
Yeah,
boats.
we're raising
we're
money
gonna
for a
build ship.
shipyard.
No, well, but so I want to talk about a couple other things really quick because um I think one of the smartest things that you ever taught me, and I talk about this a lot on my social media and elsewhere, is how you find opportunity, right? Like how you discovered this idea, right? So you remember we talked about this because I was doing a speech in Cabo 6 months ago or
Mhm.
so, and I was like, hey, I want to share some valuable insight on how to find opportunities. And you're one of these guys that seems like you just see opportunities that other people miss. So, what do you think about when you're looking at the world? What advice can you leave for our audience that you think would be useful to them in finding opportunities in whatever field they might be?
Yeah, the biggest thing, no matter what, is ask questions. I that's the top line of it
Mm.
all. I believe there's countless opportunity. When I first moved here to Puerto Rico, a lot of people told me that, oh, people leave the island because there's no opportunity, there's no this, there's no that. And I came here and I saw more opportunities than anyone could ever throw at me. Like it was countless, and I still see countless opportunities here because I ask a lot of questions. When we first looked at the charter space, I'm looking at it and going, well, there's 6 other boats here and they all do charters, kind of similar. But I'm like, but who's handling the higher end client? Who's the nice boat out of this? Who's like, so you ask questions and you just keep asking them. And as you find these answers, you find opportunities. And then after doing the charter, I'm like, well, what's stopping us from doing larger groups? And you find out it's the Jones Act. All right, well, why can't we get boats that qualify for it? Well, you need to be a US built boat. You need to be this. And you ask questions to look up the answers. And you will always find that you'll get to an opportunity almost all the time, because the more you ask these questions, the more difficult to become the answer. And those difficult answers, those are your moats. And those are where your good businesses come from.
I was at a real estate event last week or maybe the week before, and one of the speakers said, the secret to being successful in real estate, and then he said, and also really in all business, is picking your hard. And that's kind of what you're
Yeah,
talking about, right? Like find that hard thing that other people aren't doing and get really good at that one hard thing, and then you'll be
absolutely.
successful.
100%. Ask questions until you find that question is hard. That creates your moat. That makes it hard. And most people don't want to play in hard. And that's just really what it boils down to.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
find,
And not,
this is actually really good advice for me because I find that I don't ask enough questions all the time. No matter what I'm doing, I don't ask enough questions. And I don't know if it's because I just want to end the conversation or what have you. But like for especially here in Puerto Rico, because there's a language barrier a lot of times. Like I speak Spanish, but the minute a Puerto Rican starts speaking to me and they speak like an American speaks English, which is very fast, like I can't, I can't, I can't keep up, and I just want to run away and hide and not ask any more questions. So that's great advice.
Mhm.
yeah, no, I mean, I agree. And that's why I wanted to highlight it here. And, we're about to wrap up here. So Todd, Jillian, thank you for both for being here. See how I just thanked you,
Thank you,
Jillian?
Jeff. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Thanks
Jeff, for
being on
having
your own
me.
show. But But what I meant to say was, Jillian, do you have any last minute questions for Todd before we wrap up?
Todd, what's your favorite color?
What's my favorite color? Can't you tell? It's green.
Sure.
Look, I got green shirt. I got green behind. It's green.
Nice.
That's awesome.
You know,
All right,
Todd,
everybody.
so wait.
Yeah.
I gotta say this one thing though. Like Todd actually has this thing where if he has a T-shirt that has sunglasses on it, like if there's some like he's got like a frog with sunglasses on his T-shirt or something, like he tries to find the same sunglasses to wear
It's
as
happened.
the T-shirt
It actually
logo.
happened.
So like I literally see him wearing different sunglasses, and I can tell. Like if I just saw him from here up, I'd know what shirt he was wearing because he matches
No
his sunglasses.
way.
I actually do have a few
Yeah.
pair of
That is
sunglasses.
awesome. Yeah,
This
listen,
was
you
never on
you
purpose,
give a
though.
homeless man a little bit of money, and this is what happens.
The truth is, this was never on purpose. I just realized it when Jeff pointed out one time. He goes, "This is like the third shirt you've had with something with sunglasses on, and why did your sunglasses change to match it?" I'm like, "Oh, I just thought they were the best sunglasses." So it's like, I don't know. I probably saw it on the whatever's wearing the sunglasses. I'm like, that's the right pair for.
Yeah.
Oh my
So, but
God,
anyway,
that's so
Todd, is
great.
there I guess I do have one last question for you, and that is if people wanted to reach out to you, if they wanted to maybe book a charter or whatever it is, they just wanted to learn more about you, what's the best way for them to reach out to
Yeah.
you?
So if you're interested in the charters, you can go to our website. That's bluetoballoon.com. BLUE. B is in dog. OU. B is in boy. LOON.com. Or if you ever just want to reach out to me, have questions, are interested in potentially investing in a shipyard, you can reach out to me at Todd, TODD, Folk, OLK, at iCloud.com.
That's great. And I would encourage people to reach out to Todd because he is really one of the most fascinating people I've ever met. Like we barely scratched the surface of the crazy life that this man has led. So thank you so much for being
Thank
here,
you.
Todd. And I look forward to seeing you next time I'm in Puerto
Absolutely. It was
Rico.
truly a pleasure to be on here today. You both have a wonderful day.
You too. Everybody, I
Jillian,
want to
is
just
there anything
remind
you want?
you. Yes, I want to remind
Yeah.
everybody to live the best version of their last life ever. Bye, everyone.
That's the one.